In today's video, I'm going to show you how to add a router in Make. And by the time we're done, you'll know two different methods for doing it, so you can choose whichever fits the situation you're working in. Make is a visual automation platform that lets you connect apps and build workflows without writing any code. And the router is one of its most essential modules. It acts like a fork in the road. Instead of your scenario flowing in a single straight line from one module to the next, a router splits that flow into two or more separate branches, each of which can carry its own logic, filters, and actions. This is the feature that takes you from building simple linear automations to building genuinely intelligent decision-making workflows. If you find this helpful, please hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss a new tutorial. And let's get right into it. Before we cover the two methods, it's worth understanding exactly what problem the router solves. Imagine you're building a scenario that receives a new lead from a form. If the lead is from Europe, you want to add them to one CRM pipeline. If they're from the United States, you want to add them to a different one, and also send a notification to a sales rep. Without a router, you can't branch that logic. Your scenario has only one path. The router gives that single incoming flow a place to split, and then you attach conditions called filters to each branch to control which path a given bundle of data takes. Think of filters as the gates on each road. Only the right kind of traffic gets through. Knowing that context makes the placement of the router very deliberate. It goes exactly at the point in your scenario where the decision needs to happen. Now let's look at the first method, which is the right-click method. This one is ideal when you already have a working scenario built out and you want to insert a router into the middle of it without dismantling everything you've done. Start by locating the connection line, sometimes called the bridge, between the two modules where you want the flow to split. That's the thin line drawn between two module icons on your canvas. Once you've found it, right-click directly on that line. A small context menu will appear, and one of the options will read Add a router. Click it. Make will instantly insert the router module between those two existing modules, automatically preserving both connections for you. Your previous flow stays intact on one branch, and a second open connection appears on the router, ready for you to attach your new path. This is the fastest possible way to add a router, and it's particularly satisfying because it handles all the reconnection work in a single click. You don't have to manually drag or relink anything that was already there. The second method is the tools method, and this is the approach you'll reach for when you're building a scenario from scratch and want to place the router as part of your initial design. Look toward the bottom panel of your scenario editor, the toolbar running along the lower portion of the screen. You'll find a menu there labeled either Tools or Flow Control, depending on your version of Make. Click on it, and you'll see a list of special utility modules, the router among them. Select router and the module will appear on your canvas unconnected and waiting to be placed. To wire it into your flow, click and hold the open connection point on the module that should come immediately before the router, that small circle or triangle on its right side, and drag that connector line over to the router module, then release. Make will snap the connection into place. From there, you can start dragging connections from the router's output points to whichever modules you want on each branch. This method gives you more visual control over placement and layout, which makes it the stronger choice when you're thinking about the architecture of your scenario from the very beginning. A few expert things worth knowing as you get comfortable with routers. First, every branch leaving a router runs independently. Make processes them in sequence, top to bottom, but each one is its own separate path with its own outcome. Second, if you don't attach a filter to a branch, every single bundle of data that reaches the router will travel down that branch, which is almost never what you intend. To add a filter, click the small wrench or spanner icon that appears on the connection line of a branch and define your conditions there. Things like only continue if the field equals this value. Third, you're not limited to two branches. A single router can support as many output paths as your logic requires, so don't hesitate to build out complex multi-branch flows when the situation calls for it. And that brings you to the end of this tutorial. You now know how to add a router in Make, using both the right-click shortcut for existing workflows and the Tools panel method for scenarios you're designing from the ground up. The router is genuinely the module that unlocks Make's real power. Once you're comfortable placing one, you'll find yourself reaching for it constantly to build smarter, more conditional automations that respond differently depending on the data they receive. As your next step, spend some time adding filter conditions to your router branches and experimenting with how precisely you can control which data travels which path. Save this video so you can come back to it whenever you need a quick refresher, and I'll see you in the next one.